There's a movie that made this, what I'm about to say, quite famous, and this is the idea. The greatest trick the devil ever played on us was convincing us it was not the pharmaceutical companies. Oh, maybe it didn't say that.
That's funny.
However, today we're speaking to all of the inmates on planet Earth in your individual cells.
About to get jailbroken?
You jumped the fence. I hadn't gotten there yet.
Is it possible that we are, in fact, engaged in some type of prison planet where a fourth dimensional, fifth dimensional, sixth dimensional reptilian being who really rules the world is feeding off our guilt, anxiety, depression, negative emotions to fuel themselves off our stuff, and we are actually in this prison planet?
Okay, so this right here is Mexico. This right here is the bridge that leads to the United States. And that right there, the bridge is lined up with Russians that are trying to get into our country, right? And so there's tents all along this bridge right here. And the most insane thing out of all of this is we are experiencing 20-degree weather, and these people are sleeping outside in tents. Is that not insane?
Welcome to Call for the Truth. I am LaOta of the Sun, and this is Tarvars of the Sun, and we will be talking about our planet and those who run it today. But first, Tarvars, will you bring us into the Call for the Truth?
Most certainly. And I encourage those who are tuning in, join us in this call for truth. Should we call for the frequency of truth to come forth? Should we call to see the truth in all that we see? Should we call to hear the truth in all that we hear? And should we call to speak the truth, calling for the courage to speak the truth? And we are here, Call for the Truth podcast. By the way, for anybody who's watching, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe, hit that like button. We're talking about corporations. And I looked up the definition of corporatocracy, which is basically corporations that operate as an oligarch and governing force, which, from what I understand, we are deep within that. People think that, there are some people who think that we live in a democracy. I think it is obvious that we do not live in a democracy, but more of a corporatocracy, something that's ran by corporations. We could see in 2020 when the thing was happening and what was happening with the larger corporations of social media and their influence from the government and vice versa. And it was just interesting to see the levels of censorship and subjugation. And one can go on and on and on, but I think that is 2020 hindsight, as we say, very obvious of that interconnectedness with the corporation. So, and we ain't even going to talk about Amazon yet, but so where would you like to start with this? Because it's obvious that we need to start making decisions in terms of our relationship with these corporations that are running the world.
I think we have to start with our belief systems. There's a movie that made this, what I'm about to say, quite famous, and this is the idea. The greatest trick the devil ever played on us was convincing us it was not the pharmaceutical companies. Oh, maybe it didn't say that.
That's funny.
However, today we're speaking to all of the inmates on planet Earth in your individual cells.
About to get jailbroken?
You jumped the fence. I hadn't gotten there yet. Whether you're in your individual cells in your expensive apartment buildings, or whether you're in your work release programs, where you're in your offices, or whether you're in the community service you have to do and you're picking up the things off the highway, whatever aspect of your incarceration on planet Earth that you're in, we're really speaking to that, because that is the reality. And once we start to understand that, the solution becomes obvious and evident and doable. So this idea that all of us are inmates on a planet that has been a prison planet for millennia and millennia. And so we have grown up and been, there's this understanding that it takes many generations to make a slave. It takes many, many generations to make us all prisoners in a prison that's invisible to us. That we are all still the same circumstance as the dog who has been tied to the tree, and then with 6 feet of rain, and then after you remove the thing that the tether, the dog will never move because he understands he only has the 6 feet, so he'll never leave the 6 feet space. So we have all been trained to be obedient, to be respectful, to make sure that we pay homage to the acceptable places of homage, that we eat the food that's not fit for human consumption that is being given to us, that we accept the pennies for the work that in our work release program, that we give back to the company store everything we make. This is the reality that we live in. And then we're being made to think that it doesn't exist. So you must be crazy if you think that. How could this be a prison planet? How is that possible? How could you say such a thing?
Well,
did they inject you without your permission?
Our camera lady just played a video clip of some celebrity, and she might throw it in there. I think this would be a notable time to insert video clip where he's like, "You gotta pay for grapes? You gotta pay for apples?" And he's screaming this from the top of his lungs. And yeah, sounds like prison to me.
Well, he's correct in principle, but I actually have the receipts. I have lived long enough to see when watermelon seeds were not sterilized. When you ate a watermelon, if you kept the seeds, you could grow a new watermelon. I have lived long enough to know that you could eat an avocado and the seed would not be sterilized, and you could grow an avocado as your birthright, as a being born on earth, as your sacred right. Your footprint here gave you air, water, wind, fire, and all of the vegetation that you acquired. You could have more from it and feed your family that way. So I have the receipts, so to say. I have my understanding, my memory, the ancestral memory of all of my ancestors, that up until this point that was available to us. I understand now that there are plans to tokenize all benefits, including relationships, to tokenize all things that we do to make those things monetized, so to say, and to the benefit of the corporate gods. So the altar is set. All we have to do is kneel. What do you think? Should we kneel?
No, I think we should drop kick in the face of the corporation. That's just my take on it. But that drop kick, what that looks like, though, it may not be a literal, even though I may still want to do that. It's more so of a pulling back from the reliance and the dependency upon the corporation. And I was talking to a young lady about this the other day, stopped me in the store. You know how they stop you to sign up for stuff and donate. And it's like, I'll do it for that, but not at the kiosk. It felt appropriate. Guidance said yes, but she was so out of pocket, or not out of pocket, but she was so unaware of what's happening and the need to pull back. She actually mentioned that her father is talking about stocking food and doing things of that nature. And I say, I think he's right. We're growing food now, but it's primarily because there's so much domination and control. And I've shared with you, and many other people know this, one of the reasons why I started really growing sprouts is because the price that they were charging for sprouts, and then the audacity for them to not put holes in the container so that the sprouts would last long. And the sprouts that I would buy from the store would die with less than a week's time, So it's like, this is who I have given my power to for my sustenance. I don't want that. But it's so much deeper than sprouts. Yes. It's everything. Like you said, we're moving into a space where they're trying to tokenize things. I was just watching a video clip this morning thinking about the idea of streaming, how you own nothing right now. And remembering the days where we owned our music, but now it's such a weird thing where a corporation gives you access to everything, but at the same time you don't own it. You don't have anything really, because and Netflix and all these other streaming sites, they can choose to pull things away. They can raise the price. It's such a weird relationship where we've been taught or programmed to think that we're winning, but in actuality, we are getting the very short end of the stick.
It's really all in how you look at it. Once you realize you are an endless fountain of creativity, you have power coming into you from the universe that powers suns and stars, and that only if you give them authority over you do they have authority over you. Like if you think that the song you wrote is the best song you will ever write, you lose. If you recognize that you won once, you can win again. You win. It has, in our infancy, we have these experiences of being exalted by others, like companies and streaming services and people who own record companies. But would we do it for the pleasure of the beauty of the act itself for ourselves? Or would we only do it if someone else paid us for it and honored us for it? In that dynamic, there's room for growth with humanity. Like, whatever it is that is important, if it is important to you that 1 million people see you, then you have now made yourself subservient to the person who has that ability to do that for you at this point. That may not be the way it always is. And if you continue to develop the exaltation within you, you can't lose because it's still within you. They can't necessarily take that. You have the rights to that. And only you can then give it away. So I see your point that we have given away our rights in the dynamic of learning, like, oh, we're on a prison planet. Anything we have inside the cell, they got control over it. Mm-hmm. I'm like, step outside the cell. Walk away from your work release. Let's do a jailbreak. Let's leave that dynamic with all of the goods that are you. You are the goods. You are the exaltation. You are the glory. You are the creativity. Streaming nothing is still nothing.
Introductory energetic clearing. This shamanic clearing specifically targets addictions, negative thought forms, anger spheres, and more. Of the Sun cleans and clears the primary things affecting our energetic body and gives us tools to support our healing journey.
This service is priced perfectly for your regular energetic maintenance. Recommended use is once a month. For more information and sign up, visit ofthesun.com.
So that's a different way of looking at it.
So I had some thoughts, just thinking about, again, using this word corporatocracy. That's literally what this thing is by definition. And I'm seeing like the mutation from capitalism, and it has created the opportunity for these large monopolized companies, or yes, corporations, to exist. And the way you're speaking is as if we need a new system.
Absolutely.
We need something different than what we've done before that serves all, not just a few. So what are your thoughts on this idea, and maybe some examples? Because I know we don't necessarily have the blueprint of the New World System that works for everybody, but
We have the
what do
outline.
you, yeah, like
We got
envision?
the outline.
Okay, well lay out the outline, you know, the sketch.
We got the outline. My guidance has shared with me that we may have to go backwards to go forward, that we may have to step back, and assure that we're nourishing our bodies by being assured of where the food comes from. So we may have to pay some attention to that aspect of we may have to pay attention to whether we're wearing plastic clothes or something natural and organic. We may have to stop rushing down the highway to the accident that's about to happen. We may have to stop and think about, what are our children consuming mentally and emotionally? What are they consuming on their technology? What are they consuming from the behavior that we're showing them? What are we laying them down on plastic mattresses in a plastic room where the phthalates are full in their bodies, and now they're full of plastic, where we can take blood samples from them and find plastic in it? We may have to step back and reorganize and decide what the priority is for our civilization, for humanity, before we move forward. So this idea of stepping back does not mean we're going into prehistoric times. It means that we are masters. We become masters of our experience. How many of us have mastered all the aspects of the food we eat? How many of us have mastered everything we're wearing, that we know what it all is? How many of us have mastered whether the paint in our house is poisoning us, or the oil in our salad dressing is changing our hormonal balances and making us something we haven't decided to be? So this stepping backwards means that we have to look smaller first, because every geographical location has different requirements and needs different things. If you live in the mountains, you need one thing. If you live at the sea level, you need another thing. So there must be local congruency and local laws that are accustomed to what the people need. And so they can be trade with local other people and people at a distance. So these are things that we could set up. We need communications. We need to be able to communicate with our neighbors, and then they communicate with the other neighbors. And if what we need, if we don't make it and they don't make it, then we need to be able to trade it and get it. These kind of economic systems that have existed in the past. There was a time when people traded salt. There have been different methods of trade over many of the millennia. And these are the kind of relationships, of friendships in all walks of life, that we need to establish again. And we have to figure out how to become one as humanity. Like, how do we survive together? Many years ago, I was told that at some point there would be Russians walking on the American soil, and I couldn't believe it. Just 2 days ago, I saw thousands of Russians at the Mexican border coming over as immigrants. So there are many things that we haven't considered. In that, there are many opportunities. There are those who will come, who will bring trades and talents that we have long stepped away from. They may know how to make shoes. They may know how to make furniture, things that we don't know how to make. There may be opportunities here, even though this is not started as an opportunity. Us thinking from that perspective may present opportunities. It may be that America no longer produces anything. We don't even produce food anymore. We only produce lab-grown things. So we're not really producers anymore. And the Trojan horse of sending over all the immigrants that's meant to be an invasion, depending on how we think about it, it could be something else. It is an invasion. It is an alien invasion. It's very literal. So it's quite literal that things that have been prophesized are happening. The solutions have not been given, but the solution seems clear, that we must be sovereign. Just like you're growing sprouts, we all need to be growing sprouts and microgreens because we can live off sprouts and microgreens. The nutrition and the elements of new life can give us life in environments where food may be scarce. While it'll give us time to go through a growing cycle of 9 months or 120 days. So this idea of growing the microgreens and noticing that the pennies worth of microgreens that are put into a plastic container that has no consideration for the fact that they will die is not the level of consideration you would operate with your own food. You know, how would you treat the food that you grew?
The way I'm treating it now,
Yes.
loving it, talking to it.
That's right.
Putting it out on display. Look, y'all, look at the microgreens, look at the basil and the kale.
And so
it's a love affair.
It's a love affair, but it's so many unheralded possibilities there. Just the sense of productivity. Productivity is very satisfying. So now you're producing food for yourself, which is very satisfying for you. That's a win already. You haven't even eaten it yet. I mean, that's like just the idea that I've got these sprouts. I'm in love with these sprouts. These are my sprouts. I'm taking care of them. I'm making sure they get air and water and sun. All of that is elevation. All of that is not like living in your mother's basement online. It's a different experience. So that we can be greater for the natural organic aspects of creation if we lean into them. And that's not to say that we're against technology, but technology has to have people who program it who are balanced. And so much of what we see with our technology is the effects are from an imbalanced programmer.
Yeah, and also with the desire to keep you addicted. This is again the corporations at work, where everything is give me real estate within your mind, give me your attention. You know, so reprogramming by the designer, it's a must for sure.
It's so interesting. There are things that are happening on the computer, like the pop-ups that break your concentration and your focus constantly. As soon as you start reading an article, 12 other things pop up that break your concentration, and maybe you get back to it, maybe you don't. Maybe you're interfered with permanently. Maybe you return to it, or something else catches your eye. All of these things are very purposely done. The mind has been studied, and the kinds of effects are not just for profit. They are to diminish our focus and our ability to move through and complete task. It's a very interesting thing. You know, one of the things that the companies are doing now is paying their top executives to be available 24 hours a day, and they're encouraging them, do not go shopping. Do not cook your food. Don't clean your house. You're more valuable to us being online. That sounds very flattering, doesn't it? Like, we need your full attention because you're so wonderful. But what that does is it makes you a slave to the machine that you're operating on in your home, and it leaves someone else to interact with everything in every aspect of your making your bed and getting your food and all of that. So you lose complete context for your relationship with your own life. Now your life belongs to the company because you have no other interests, because they have said, we'll pay you, you go pay somebody else to do that. Just, you know, it's like the baby. Just look at me only. Only look at me. Don't turn your face away. Just look at me. It's scary.
Yeah, and these are adults running corporations and organizations.
Yes, quite so. So the way to go, or the idea that we are promoting is that strive for sovereignty. In any space that you can, go to learn about your own nutrition. Work on keeping your own body healthy. Make sure that you know what's in your food. What are you wearing? Are you wearing something that if you breathe it in too long, it will asphyxiate you? Or are you wearing something that's natural and organic from the earth and appropriate for you to sleep in can you be unconscious in your clothes, or do you have to worry about what you're wearing and what you're sleeping and what your sheets are made of and what your comforter is made of? You know, do you need to be worried about these things? Did you let someone else do that shopping for you and hope that they had your interests at heart with the companies that they went to? I want to start this the way I finish this the way I started it. It's like the greatest trick the devil ever played on us was making us think he was not the corporations. So, would you like to do a call for the truth?
Well, certainly. And a call for the truth as it relates to the truth we need to hear. As it relates to today's topic.
So today, these are the call for truth cards. We have found that these cards always give us exactly what we need to know. I'm shuffling them before I hand them to Tarvars to pick the card for the question he has in mind based on our topic today.
Just a moment. The theme is freedom. Allow yourself the freedom to be patient. If you rush through something, you miss the beauty in the moment that was meant for you. Do not stress. I feel like this is layered. I think about how this society and the lifestyles that we have is a rush, fast pace. We don't really get to slow down, be in the moment.
Right.
And there is a type of enslavement to the fast, I gotta get to the next thing or hurry up and do something. And there's freedom in the patience and taking your time with a thing. And I would say, because I'm asking for the truth as it relates to the topic, there's freedom in the process of, all right, what area of my life can I get free in? One step at a time, because, you know, it's a lot of things, but I feel that, and I know that we matter. Every single thing that we do matters, and you do one thing, I do one thing, they do one thing, and that counts in the pot, you know. But if we do nothing,
Yes.
that counts for nothing. But what do you have on this?
I think that we've been cultivated for convenience from babyhood. You know, we've been cultivated to want conveniency, and that conveniency is a shortcut to hell. I think that we can drive up to the drive-up window until, you know, there is no drive-up window, like until they're putting the label, until they're putting the label and said, this is toxic, which is what they're currently doing. And it's still legal in this lawlessness for our children to go work there. And it's still legal for us to pull up for our convenience of toxicity, our vaping, our getting high, all the things, you know, our fast food, all of this. We are cultivated for, let me have it right now. Where when you talked about sprouting and growing in the microgreens, that didn't feel like a drive-up window kind of experience.
It's not, but the benefits, it's not that instantaneous gratification, it's the journey. It's the process, right?
Yes.
To greatness. And the greatness is, oh, look at this, look at what I did. And I'm working with the earth, the elements, you know, nature, the seeds, the light, you know, and there's power in that. There's freedom in that.
Yes.
Freedom from my pockets towards the corporation.
This is something that is very satisfying, that we should encourage our children. We should encourage ourselves. I read something interesting, just like a little quote, and it said that, it actually was given to me by one of my clients. It said, if you're arguing, you're not gardening enough. Because you can put all that argument right into that dirt, and it knows just what to do with it. You know, you don't have to give it to the person that you're looking at. So this is, you know, a shout out for sovereignty, to recognize where we really are You are in prison. You are an inmate. But we're doing a jailbreak here today. Join us. Freedom is on the horizon. Thank you. In Lakesh and Veritas, honor, respect, and gratitude.